going right in anyway. Oh, no, another blonde lady. Can you imagine? And they gave me all this paperwork. I'm filling all that stuff out. Who needs to know all that stuff? Yeah. And hard, my hand hurts. I heard it. I was trying to do some Christmas gifts and just a minute. And I couldn't do it because I cut myself. But listen, yeah. Agnes said to come here to this place where I come for the blonde lady that teaches a Bible study. And she told me to come here that they have some counseling too. So I decided to come because my friend Agnes is so sick. Oh, yeah, she'll get better. But anyway, she usually helps me with all my stuff.
Does she?
Yeah, she does, and then she ain't available because she said she's so sick. She's always sick. I don't know what her problem is, but my hand hurts.
Your hand hurts?
Yes.
So you cut yourself.
What are you doing?
Oh, you know, just keeping some notes. Just some.
How many are you gonna take?
This is really just a support so I don't forget, because I do forget, like your
yeah.
name and like your
Yeah,
name.
you do, and
like,
she
yeah.
sent me to you. That blonde lady's a little better than your blonde lady. Listen, Agnes told me if I came today that you would help me with all kinds of stuff.
Oh, sure.
So listen, I got some Christmas cards.
Okay.
And I just wondered if you could help me write them out.
Oh,
And I got a gift here, and I only give one gift a year, and it's one that somebody gave me last year. But at least I give it away.
Yeah,
right?
that's good. I give you spirit.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, and can you help me rewrap my hand too?
Oh,
And then I just got one question particularly for you today.
Sure.
Yeah. Would
Do you want me working these
yeah,
out?
sure.
Okay.
Wait, no, I gotta get this on and get them in the mail.
Sure, I don't normally do this, but for the first session we could try this. Okay, cards.
What do you do here? You don't help.
Usually we talk about feelings.
I don't want to talk about feelings and stuff. I got problems here. I need you to help me with them.
We seem
Agnes usually doesn't. Agnes is, well, you know, she
missing
got the
Agnes.
runs and she got all kinds of otherwise she would have taken care of us. She always does.
here.
It's a cute.
Yeah, I know. This is a very hard time of the year.
Well, anyway, shush it. Don't be so nice.
Oh, shit.
Anyway, I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
Would you start, please?
Okay, you know what? I would be happy to help you. Jesus, help me.
I didn't bring no tape. Don't you got no tape?
No, we don't usually have
What?
tape
You
in our
don't have
office.
tape in a place like this?
We usually
You
talk
got all
about
those
feelings.
forms that I'm supposed to fill out, and I can't write all that out. I got my hand.
Yeah. It's very hard.
Miss Agnes.
Very hard.
Miss Agnes.
Miss Agnes.
I just need her help. But anyway, I just was wondering.
Sure.
Can you answer one question?
I would love to, Pearl.
You are kind of a pretty blonde lady.
Oh,
I don't say that
Pearl.
very often.
Pearl. You're lovely too. I love what you did with the hat and the
Do you
rollers
like
and nice
I do.
buttons.
I like the
I mean, the
rollers, too.
pearl.
I like it.
She really is
But anyway,
lovely.
listen.
Okay.
I got a couple quick. Keep going, please.
Okay.
In the cards.
Yep, right now.
Right.
Do you know who you want them sent to, Pearl? Just anybody?
Yeah, anybody.
Okay. If that helps you, I want to help you. I want to help you. My heart.
You are already helping me. This place is pretty good. Agnes recommended it highly. And I didn't know much about you. What do you call yourselves?
The Christian Mission.
No, what do you call yourself?
Oh, a counselor.
Oh, counselor, whatever that means. I don't know. Well, okay, you a friend?
Sure,
Okay,
yes.
well, Agnes is my friend. Agnes, she's my friend.
You're missing
She
Agnes.
got the runs today.
She got the runs. Agnes got the runs.
She got the running here and there.
And it hurts you, doesn't it, when she has the runs? Yeah. Okay. I can tell you. I feel you.
Anyway, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
I want to get going here. If you finish this stuff up, I can leave this place. I didn't want to come in the first place to this
The
place.
first time's hard.
Yeah, she drags me to that blonde lady all the time.
The blonde lady.
And that's the only time I come here. Now, I ain't coming no more. You're pretty and all, but I ain't coming back to you.
Okay.
But anyway, I got one question.
Mm-hmm.
How can a virgin
Okay.
have a baby?
Have a baby.
Now, if you can answer me that one, then you're better than I think you are.
Okay. I assume you're speaking of Mary, as in
I think that was her name.
the mother
Yes.
of Jesus,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think she was a mother, but I don't know how she could be.
right?
So can you tell me that? How is a baby!
It's a big question. Isn't that a big question, right? Pearl, why is it so important that you have the answer to this question?
It's a mystery! You're supposed to figure these things out. You're supposed to be the one that has all the answers, and that one lady that teaches the Bible study. She's got a lot of them.
Her name's Linda. Okay.
I can't remember.
Pearl, how do you feel about mysteries? How do you feel about the unknown?
Oh my goodness.
Is that
I
upset
don't
you?
have time for this. I gotta get my Christmas cards done and my one gift wrapped. Please, I don't know how I feel. I just got those questions and I
Sure.
want them answered. Do you know anybody if you can't figure it out?
You know, Pearl, we have a great Bible study happening.
I
right
know
now.
about your Bible
And there's
study.
this great guy named
I don't
Rob
know
who
that
has
I
a lot of
am.
answers.
Oh.
A lot of answers. He might be able to answer that question for you, Pearl. Want to try?
I don't know if I got time. I got lots of aches. In fact,
Okay.
I think I'm catching what Agnes
Did you want your
has.
card?
I'll see if I feel better.
Oh,
If
yeah,
I do, I'll try and get there. What's he talking about? What's he talking about? All right, bye.
Anyone like him? Never will one be the same. Tiny babe, infant gift.
They get to where they think what they're hungry for, what they've searched for is, it's not there. I doubt that there's any person on the planet who has at some point in life not set their heart on something, achieved it, gotten it, that new house, that new car, that husband, that wife, that job, that whatever, and then once you get it, what you were really looking for wasn't there. And so the Magi say, well, where is he? Where is this? And Christmas, the part of the mystery of Christmas is finding what we most look for, what our heart really longs for. Elizabeth, you know the story of Elizabeth and Zachariah. Elizabeth is old. She's past the time when she can have a child. And when Mary comes, she asks, you know, Mary, she's by this point, Elizabeth is 3 months along in her own pregnancy. And she is, and when Mary comes to visit her after the angel's announcement, she says, why am I so favored? Why am I so blessed? It's really a question of fairness. Why am I getting this blessing? All of us know, but Elizabeth is kind of on both sides of the fairness question. She spent most of her life suffering in a culture and society that valued women most for their ability to have children. She's barren, no child. It's a testimony to Zachariah's love for her that he didn't divorce her. Could have left her. And she says, why am I so favored? Fairness is really a question on both sides. Sometimes we ask that question when we're not, when things aren't going well. This isn't fair. If you don't believe that's a question, just hang out with 3-year-olds, right? That's not fair. It's, you know, right after, I think that children learn a few words quickly. They learn the word no, because they hear it so much. They, and much to every mother's dismay, they learn the word daddy pretty quick. And right after that, they learn it's not fair. And we've all felt that way. But the truth is, Elizabeth is also, her blessings are no more fair than her suffering. See, there were lots of women in that time who didn't get miracle children. We are, the things that you have and you enjoy as the richest people on this planet. American culture is the best fed, it's the best housed, it's the best cared for as a society. We have places in the world where some people are much richer, of course, but as a society, and that's not fair either. Because the very things you have are the things that people, our brothers and sisters, look around the world and say, it's not fair. How fair is it that our children struggle with obesity and their children starve to death? It's not fair. And one of the great mysteries is this notion that God has blessed us in such a powerful way. Third question that's there is, Mary asks, how can this be? And that, I think, was Pearl's question. How can this be? How can a virgin have? And we've all been there at some point in our life. We've had a moment, and we've looked at this and said, this can't be happening. I can't believe this. This is my worst nightmare. This thing is incomprehensible. It shouldn't happen. This is not what my life was meant to be. And Mary grapples through. I'm raised Protestant, not Catholic, and I have a lot of respect for our friends. And sometimes because our Catholic friends make so much of Mary, I think we make too little of Mary. She's an incredible young woman. She really is. And Mary's approach to life, but we often forget that Mary was just an ordinary girl. She was living at a time on the fringes of a great empire in an obscure little village, Nazareth. She's poor, she's uneducated, and she's probably a teenager when this all happens. And what she knows the day the angel announces that she will be the Messiah's mother is that it will cost her everything. Because nobody is going to believe, and people did not believe, that she was pregnant by a virgin, by God, that she was a virgin, that she didn't have sexual relations. As a matter of fact, that goes on today. People still say that. So Mary's question is, how can this be? It's something that resonates with us. Because we all face tragedies, struggles, difficulties, things that we can't understand. And yet Mary is a person who manages that and deals with that in such a powerful way. The fourth question is Zachariah's question. Now, I love Zachariah. You know Zachariah's Elizabeth's husband. So they're too old to have children. And he goes into the temple. He's a small-town priest. We don't even know where he is, but he's doing his priestly duties in Jerusalem. And he comes and he says, and the angel meets him there and says, hey, Zach, look, here's what's going to happen. Elizabeth's going to have a baby. And he looks up at the angel, and he's the bravest or dumbest man in the Bible. Right. I'm not sure which. Because he looks at an angel sent from the courts of heaven and says, I don't think I believe you. I mean, you angels are not all into this baby-making stuff, so, and she can't do that. And I'm not sure I can either. And sometimes we find ourselves in that position where we don't know what to trust. We don't know what to believe in. The world seems to be shifting all around us. And last question. It's the crowd on the day that John was named. John the Baptist was named. And they say, what will this child be? So they've lived through this time of watching Elizabeth, this woman who they all knew is past the time she had a child, get pregnant. Pregnancy's not easy to hide. And she's there. And then more miraculous, something far beyond the fact that this older woman is pregnant, is that her preacher husband can't talk. And, right? Because if you get a preacher to shut up, you're doing good. Remember the story? The angel says, yeah, you don't get to talk anymore for 9 months. It's every woman's dream come true. A man who can only listen and not talk, right? Why are you laughing? Because you know it's true, right? Yeah, just shut up and listen to me. And they all want to know, what will this child be? They want to know the future. We all want to know the future. We all want to know what will be. And as Zechariah wrestles through this notion of the future and where our future rests, the mystery of Christmas comes down to some of the most profound questions in human life. Why is my life not fair? How can tragedy come to me? What's my future going to be? Why can't I find the peace, happiness, joy I'm looking for? All those questions are wrapped up in the story of Christmas. And but I want to turn your attention to a story from my own life, and then what I call my favorite Christmas verse that's not a Christmas verse. Okay? It was Christmas Eve 2004. These are images of my youngest son, Mark. Mark joined the United States Marine Corps out of high school. He deployed to Iraq the day my father died, the year before, on the anniversary of my father's death, September 9th. On Christmas Eve 2004, Mark was in Fallujah, Iraq. Now, you may not remember the events around Fallujah, but some months prior to this time, 5 American contractors had been overwhelmed by a crowd of Iraqi militants. They had been murdered, their bodies had been burned, and they had their bodies that were then strung up on a bridge. And those images filled the airways. And that's where they sent my boy, that place. 2nd Recon, his battalion spent most of November fighting in Fallujah. The battalion was on the south side of the city. The American Army and American Marine Corps elements were working their way from the north, and they were pushing insurgents out, which means they were moving street by street, block by block, clearing buildings, gunfights everywhere. And then as insurgents were coming out of the city, they met 2nd Recon. And they could surrender, or they could fight, and most of them fought. That Christmas Eve, we were getting ready for Christmas. The house was all decorated and all that stuff. And my daughter and her husband, Erica, if you know Erica, she kind of burst into the house with her typical panache. Erica moves through a room like a tsunami sometimes, and lots of fun and all that. And then Paul and Crystal were there, and their baby Maddie was almost 2. So we had a 2-year-old in the house, and Christmas trees and Christmas lights, and a stack of presents with Mark's name on them in the corner. But he wasn't there. And I couldn't sleep. Everybody else was at bed. I got up, I was watering the house. I was anxious, I was nervous. We'd lived months with that fear. There's no way to describe it, except that, I know what it is to turn the corner and hope you don't see a car you don't recognize. Because when your boy's dead, they send a chaplain and an officer to your house. And I don't want to see. And every time the phone rang, I prayed it wasn't the Marine Corps, because I didn't want to hear from those guys, because it's never good. Right? Gina knows, don't you? You know how that feels. Well, over 1,000 insurgents were killed in that battle. Dozens of Marines and soldiers were killed. 3 days before, December 17th, a few days before, in Mosul, Iraq, an insurgent came into a dining hall and wearing a vest. Oh, my mic's not on? Is my mic on? No, this mic. Okay, I'll use the mic because I'm letting my voice drop. He was wearing a suicide vest, detonated inside and killed 17 Americans. On December 24th, 3 American Marines and an American soldier were killed in Fallujah. And I knew what their families would be going through on Christmas Day. And I was like a caged tiger. I could not rest. I could not. And I sat down and I flipped on the Christmas lights. They were the lights on the house, the Christmas tree lights, and I noticed that we had an Eagle Globe and Anchor ornament on the tree that he'd given Mark before he left the Christmas before. And I kind of picked it off the tree and held it. And went outside. Stood under it was a cold night, and the sky was clear, crystal clear, and the stars were there. And I looked up, and I couldn't help but think. I remember what it was like when he was little. See, when he was a little boy, don't tell him I ever told you this. But he was afraid of the dark. He was actually afraid of what was in the dark. And I'd go up to his room, and I'd pray with him. And I always ended my prayers the same way, and Lord, help Mark always love and serve you. And then I'd sit in the dark with him. And I wanted to sit in the dark with him that night. Because there were real monsters in the dark. 2-legged monsters with AK-47s and grenades who would kill him if they got the chance for no better reason than where he came from and what he'd come to do. And they didn't care who he was. They didn't care. He's the kind of kid that every dad wishes he had that kind of son. He's that kind of kid. And but I looked up at the stars, and the thought just struck me that there was a star the night Jesus was born. And I began to connect for the first time in my life what it was like for a father to send his son to a faraway place, to a dangerous world where people would want to kill him for no better reason than where he came from. And God and I will chat that night. So what I'd like to do is to take you through my favorite Christmas verse. That's not a Christmas verse. It's John 3:16. You see, John 3:16 really describes the mystery of Christmas. It says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." He came into the world not to condemn the world, but that through him the world would be saved. That is a mystery. Why God would do that for us. I'm no pacifist. I'm really not. But I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't send anybody's kid to shoot at anybody else's kid anywhere in the world ever again if we could just get away with not doing it. Because nobody hates war like a dad. So let me just walk you through some of the things that came to my mind. See, God's love, the mystery of God's love is transforming love. It changes things. Love, this kind of love changes things. It makes things different. For God so loved the world. The first thing I want you to notice is that God loved what was least deserving of being loved. See, we don't deserve it. The mystery of Christmas is that God loves you, and you know you don't deserve it. Right? This is a world full of people who have been at war with God since Adam and Eve listened to the snake. And we've been at war with him ever since. And yet, the mystery of God's great love is that he gives it to those who deserve it the least. That power to transform the world, to change your life and my life by a gift of love we do not deserve, is one of the Christmas mysteries that's wrapped up in this whole story. Second, God gives his best. Transforming love gives his best. I can tell you as a dad, when the government asked for my son, actually he volunteered over his father's objections. Long and loud objections. They asked for my best. They can have my money, they can have my property, they can have anything else. But my boy? You want my boy? You see, God could have sent, could have done all sorts of things. He's God, right? I mean, he can kind of do what he wants to do. It's the definition of being God. But what he did do is send his most precious thing. And that is a mystery. God sent what was most precious to him to redeem those who hated him the most. That's a mystery. The third thing that these verses tell us is that great love takes great risks. Love is risky business, right? Very risky business. Now, the verse says that whosoever believes, and we can do the theological tap dance around that stuff, and we can have that, but here's the point. The day in eternity, or the moment in eternity, or however you think about eternity, that the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit decided that they would create this world, and you and me, and beings in his image, who would have freedom, and who would use that freedom to rebel, and who would use that freedom to hurt them, and use that freedom to hurt each other. They took a great risk because they loved you so much. Loving is risky business. There's no guarantee. What makes it easier, I think, for us to love than perhaps to set God's great love apart from it is that we love and we hope, but we don't really know. God loved and he knew that there would be people who would reject his son, torture his son, murder his son. And he came anyway. I don't understand that. I don't get that. It makes no sense to me to take that kind of risk. But Christmas is about a love that takes great risks. To redeem, to love, to transform, to change people's lives. Fourth, Transforming love in an act of faith and hope. It says, should not perish but have everlasting life. When we give great love, or when God gives us kind of transforming love, he does so, we do so, with the hope and faith that that love will matter and change the world. As Christians, well, those of us who are Christians, we understand that it is this moment in history, this great moment in history, when God sends his Son into the world in this kind of transforming love that changed everything. All of human history, from that moment to this, has been transformed and changed by that single act of great love. Some of us have lived in, been in, seen places where the gospel has not penetrated. Societies and cultures. And we've seen the depravity, the suffering, the misery of cultures and societies that do not value people as created in the image of God. We've seen the desperation of people where there is no compassion, where love does not exist, where societies are structured without these values in place. If you don't believe that, let me encourage you to visit lands or to see lands where it is not Christianity, but it is some other form of religion that has penetrated society. So, there are societies in our world who do not look at people who are ill, people who need the kind of services that the Christian mission provides, people who do not look at them. They don't see them that way. They see them as suffering justly because of their karma. And they should not be helped. I've been in lands where a child born with Down syndrome is not cared for and loved, but the doctors recognize that the child be euthanized because they are suffering from bad karma. So let them die so they can come back quicker and better life. Do you understand? See, we're not a Christian country. First of all, I don't subscribe to the notion that Christians can be religious at all. I mean, that countries are religious, people are religious. But we are certainly a Christianized culture, and the values that God brought with him and that Jesus brought have so permeated our culture that we care for the poor. There are lots of places in the world where nobody cares for the poor. Why? Because Jesus taught us, when you do to the least of these. Do you understand my point? This kind of love has the power to change everything. And finally, it changes your life and mine. The mystery of Christmas isn't an event that happened a couple thousand years ago. It's not even around the virgin birth. It's not around the miraculous about this. It's what that love is doing now in your life and in my life and in the lives of thousands and thousands of other people around the world. Because God did not send his Son to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. We, as Christians, should recognize that it is this moment, coupled with Easter and his sacrifice, that has the power to change everything. Now, some of you in this room, some of you know people whose lives are 180 degrees in the opposite direction you were at one point. Right? You were headed for destruction, you're headed for misery, you're headed for... And then Jesus came. And everything changed. The mystery of Christmas is that this event continues to transform the world. It continues to make a difference in individual lives. That's what the Christian mission is about. is about helping people connect with the power that changes lives forever. I'm going to show you a brief video clip. Well, let me move on here. In the fall of 1977, 2 women died within days of each other. Both left their mark on our world. One of them was Diana Spencer, Princess of Wales. She was wealthy, young, beautiful, had everything this world could possibly want. And yet one of her quotes was, "I don't want expensive gifts. I don't want to be bought. I have everything I want. I just want someone to be there for me, to make me feel safe and secure." As far as we know, she never found it. She died tragically in a twisted wreck of a car in a Paris tunnel driven by a drunk man. Left 2 boys. But as far as we know, she was still looking for that. A few days later, another woman died. Same year. She was not young. She was not particularly beautiful in that sense. She was desperately poor and spent her entire life among the world's poorest, most impoverished, most suffering peoples. Mother Teresa of Calcutta said, "My key to heaven is that I love Jesus in the night. I know what you feel, terrible longing with dark emptiness. And yet he is the one in love with you. Never let anything so fill you with sorrow as to make you forget the joy of the risen Christ." Because the mystery of Christmas is it changes everything.